And we're going to talk about the Carr Trophy. Basically, it's the equivalent of the college Heisman for Southeast Missouri, the best player in Southeast Missouri football. And it's going to be coming up at the end of the season. Who's going to come down with that trophy? Who do you think is going to come away with it this year? There's quite a few contenders in there.
Yeah, I would think the top three maybe would be Al Young from Cape Central, Ethan Stevens from Dexter, and Edward Wilson from Kennett. I think those would be maybe the top three. Maybe throw Nick Thompson in there from Malden. But probably Al Young. He's definitely the most talented. Top to bottom, he's the most talented. He's getting Division I looks, but being a wide receiver, he doesn't touch the ball as much. But he's so dangerous every time he does touch the ball. And he's had so much hype around him for years now that probably he will win. If I had a vote, I think I would vote for Ethan Stevens of Dexter. He's done so much with so little. The numbers that he's put up are just, I can't put them up on my video game. They're just crazy numbers. And everybody knows that he's the one who's going to be, running the ball, and everybody knows that he's the focal point, and they still can't stop him. He doesn't have a lot of weapons around him. He's got a very young offensive line, and he's still putting up these crazy numbers and basically single-handedly keeping his team in all these games against very good teams. They have a tough schedule, yeah. But I don't think that I can't remember a time that they've ever given a Carr Trophy to a team with a losing record that only had 3 wins. I can't remember. Maybe it's happened, but I don't remember it. Probably Al Young, but if I had a vote, I think I would take Ethan Stevens.
Yeah, that's kind of the dynamic. Al Young's had the great cumulative career.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, last year having a great year with he probably his junior year he could have easily won it.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't go to juniors; it goes
right.
to seniors. So that's probably what voters will take into account, even though it's a season award. Isn't it?
Right.
Isn't that how it's
right.
It's
just
a season award?
Right. It's just a seasonal award.
Yeah.
Like I said, only one junior's ever won it, and that was Earl Wheeler at Dexter when he won it back-to-back in 86 and 87.
Okay.
That's the only time a junior's ever won it, and most of the time they're going to go for a senior unless they're just crazy good like Earl Wheeler was back in 86. I think it will go kind of the cumulative type thing. But, Al Young's had a great season as well.
Yeah.
I think he's got over 1,300 yards, if I'm not mistaken, for the season. But, you look at Ethan Stevens' numbers; they're just crazy.
Yeah.
And then, and Edward Wilson's right there with him. Edward Wilson's had just an outstanding season as well. But I think Edward Wilson would lose to Stevens head-to-head because Stevens in their head-to-head matchup actually outplayed him, and Dexter won that game. So, I think it's Stevens and Young. I think those are the two front runners, and I think Young will end up winning it.
Yeah. Stevens with a losing record at Dexter, I'm sure voters will consider that.
Mm-hmm.
That's always in the mix how well your team does. But when it just comes to raw production, I don't think there's any question that Stevens has had the most outstanding season in Southeast Missouri.
Yeah, and like I said, what he did with Dexter, who's a very young football team, and they were looking for somebody to kind of lead them, and he led them in a big way, and single-handedly, it seemed, kept them in some big games against Park Hills and against Malden. He ran crazy against Malden. They just couldn't stop Malden on the other end. It was and everybody knew what was going to happen. Everybody knew when the ball was snapped that he was taking off and running or going to throw it, and he still couldn't be stopped. And he's the best player I saw all year as far as just on the field, just doing what he was doing. Now, the most talented obviously is Al Young, but for me, the best player on the field this year was Ethan Stevens.
Yeah. So a lot of talent on that field this year. It's hard to really, you go down the list a little bit, like you said, Nick Thompson. He's had a great year running the ball and also at the linebacker position. Mm-hmm. He's had a great year. And then you have even Tristan Francisco had a great year at Bluff.
Right.
Throwing the ball.
Yeah, he had a great year, and a guy that gets very little, you don't hear much about him, but John Garrett Kellums, the quarterback down at Portersville, he had a tremendous year. Yeah. I think he had over 20 touchdowns, threw for almost 2,000 yards, if I'm not mistaken. He had a great year that just kind of went under the radar. Peyton Faulkner's another one at Crowsville who's there's a really good crop of quarterbacks this year for this area that usually you have 2 or 3, but this year there's a whole bunch of really good quarterbacks that have really put up some pretty good numbers.
Yeah, so I had quite a few players do quite well at different positions. And what's so strange about Al Young is at the wide receiver position, Southeast Missouri. it's either quarterback or running back that's getting all the attention, because either one guy's hiking it and running it, or he's handing it off to someone that's running it. We hardly ever see that kind of big play from wide receivers in our area.
Right. There's very seldom do you see. I think there's been maybe 1 or 2 Carr Trophy winners that have been from wide receiver. Most times it's quarterback or running back, and I think most of the time it's actually running back. I think is usually the. But Al Young's just a different. I mean, you can just see whenever you see him play. Just watch him play a few plays, you can just see he's different level. He's got the speed. He's got the strength. He's got the moves. I mean he's got the whole package, and he's by far to me the most talented and most intriguing, because I think he's going to be known more for what he does in college. I think he's got a great potential to go to a big school and have a lot of success. Ethan Stevens with smaller, it's going to be tougher for him. I think he could play somewhere, but I don't know if he can play at the bigger schools like an Al Young could.
Yeah.
He's not going to get the looks, and Al Young, but as for a season goes, you can't. It's hard to find somebody who had a better season than Ethan Stevens, and I honestly can't remember a high school quarterback having a season like Ethan Stevens had this year.
Yeah, it's been quite a year. He broke pretty much all the single season records they had. Not throwing, but total yardage,
rushing, and it was just he put up just crazy numbers, and he threw the ball pretty well too. As the year got progressed, he got better throwing the football, and it'd been nice to see him play quarterback. He played a little bit, I think, as a freshman, and I think he kind of got a few snaps in there as a freshman. Then the sophomore and junior year, he was kind of a wide receiver. It'd been nice to see him play quarterback all 4 years to see how good he could have been.
Yeah. He had the talent. They just had other pieces to try to move around.
It's tough to knock Peyton Pollock out of there. He was pretty good himself.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. That'll be at the end of the season once they determine that Carr Trophy
usually
winner.
I think it's usually the first week in December. I think is when they usually have that and announce that. So
sure. Yeah, we'll be looking forward to that. See who takes away that Carr Trophy this season.